Every day, citizens around the country are faced with new dilemmas. Dilemmas that affect them profoundly. Whether it's injustice, discrimination, falling through the cracks, scandals and cronyism, balances of power, ethics, religious freedoms, state versus citizens, and unfunded mandates, and the list goes on and on and on. Welcome to Speak Up. It's directed at those who have fallen through the cracks, and it gives them a voice. It's your turn to speak up, to stand up and fight back.
Thank you for joining us for another segment of Speak Up. Today's program is about a parent who, although they had a workable parental program in place, somehow in the process, it seems something broke down. We have a marital master and a guardian ad litem, and a parent who has been separated from that parent's children for no apparent reason. Something's got to be done. I'd like to welcome my guest, Michael Rice. How are you, Mike?
Very good, Kevin. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show.
You bet.
Well, it's a common thing where people are coming on the show to express their opinions and tell us about their plight, and apparently you have an issue with the government.
That's correct, I do. More specifically with the family court.
Okay.
I had been divorced about 4 years ago. Had, as divorces go, a relatively civil divorce. And went ahead and went well for about a year or so. At that point, I had 60% custody of my children, mostly just because of the schedules. That worked out best for the kids and for my ex-wife and myself.
Was this determined by the court, the part of the family, the parenting plan?
No, it was just between my ex-wife's attorney and my attorney at that time.
Okay.
And we just made an agreement, worked out good for both our schedules, made sense with the children, and went fairly well in the beginning.
Did you have a judge in your case?
We had a marital master. And it was, we had submitted and had agreed upon a parenting plan at that point, and just simply submitted it to the family court system, which they approved. We never even went to court, and actually appeared in the court.
What was your marital master's name?
Master Love.
Master Love.
Yes.
Okay. And located?
Nashua.
Nashua.
Yes.
Oh, in Nashua. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. All right, well, tell us a little bit about what's going on here. You had 60% visitation with your children.
That's correct.
And where are you today with your visitation?
Today, now, I have my 3 children. I have a 9-year-old daughter. I have a 15-year-old son in a couple days, and a 17-year-old son. And my 9 and 14-year-old I see every Friday for 4 hours and every other weekend. My 17-year-old son, I pretty much just now, haven't seen in a long time, just starting to see him on the holidays now.
Okay, what's changed? Why did this change? What happened?
It actually started back about 3 to 4 years ago, when I had actually moved in with my current wife now. And moved in with her, and at that point, things became very difficult with my ex-wife. She had moved on long before, I had, and was living with her boyfriend. They have a child now, and they had moved on. But when I moved in with my current wife, things changed. I think it was just the fact of having another woman involved in the children's life that was, threatening to her.
This was an amicable, a decent divorce. It wasn't contested or anything to that effect.
Sure, I actually went ahead, and when we separated, I actually went ahead and wanted to make sure that my kids were in a good neighborhood, well cared for. I actually signed the lease for her for the place that she was in. I would go, on payday, go to BJ's, get the bulk stuff, stop over the house, drop half of it off, and took very good care of them, and it was a very civil divorce.
So where's the parenting plan then in this case? I mean, you had said off camera that this thing has been going on for 4 years.
That's correct.
So where does this all turn into, basically when you moved, and that's when the water started getting shaky?
That's correct, Kevin. I did, and when I moved in with my current wife, my ex-wife made allegations that the home that we were living in was too small and that we had been smoking in the house with the kids. You know, and I agreed that the house was kind of small for the kids that we had, and I had made arrangements to find another home. Lots of money, lots of searching. I wanted to make sure that we're in a nice neighborhood, a good home that the kids could live in.
Mm-hmm.
So we went ahead and moved. She made these allegations and went ahead and filed for a change in the parenting plan and filed for full custody of the children. This went through the court system.
Was there an argument going on at this point? Was it?
Oh yeah, there were all kinds of, it was, you know, as far from civil as you can possibly imagine. I had put in motion after motion where she had denied my parenting rights, where she would not release the children to me during my parenting time. I had gone weeks without seeing the children. Everything I did, I tried to do it legally through the court system, and found, you know, once I got embroiled into the family court, I was really shocked that I was getting, you know, no relief and from what myself and my children were going through. And I was very, very surprised at how drawn out the process was, how expensive it was. One of the things that's terribly difficult when a lot of families get divorced or separated, there's financial issues at that point. I had left my home with my clothes, and that was it. I had to find another vehicle. I had to find another home. I had to refurnish that whole home, and there was nothing left at that point. I was starting over from scratch, and now I'm, you know, in the family court system and finding myself, excuse me, finding myself tangled up in this long, drawn-out process and not getting any relief from what I was, you know, trying to accomplish.
How did this affect the kids?
It was horrible, absolutely horrible. The kids now were in the middle of this,
mm-hmm.
and they felt as, okay, I got to try to pick sides now. I have done my best through this whole process of the 4 years to keep the children totally out of it. So it was terribly difficult. We went through the family court system, and motion after motion, kids were not being released to me.
On what grounds?
The existing parenting plan that we had, and I actually called the Hudson Police Department to assist me one time, and the Hudson Police Department would not get involved, that it was a civil matter, it wasn't a criminal matter, and the police officer actually went into my ex-wife's home and said, you're going to have to answer for this. You're going to have to go to a judge and say, why did you violate this order that I have? And, you know, I thought I was going to be in pretty good shape, that things would work themselves out. I'd get the kids back to, you know, at least 50-50. But that didn't happen.
Did you file a civil suit?
I have not filed a civil suit.
Okay, being it that they said it was a civil matter from the police perspectives.
Correct.
Right. So you're trying just to enforce the parental plan that's already in existence at this time.
Correct.
And for some reason, motion after motion, it's being denied. And why is it being denied? I didn't catch it.
Yeah, and some of them, most of them were not being denied. They said they would take care of it and they would address it at the final hearing. All the motions that I had filed, they would address at the final hearing. They went ahead and recommended a GAL to go ahead and inspect my home, to do interviews of the children, and to go ahead and make a recommendation of parenting based on the best interests of the children.
All right, we're hearing lots of complaints about GALs, but from what I understand, you said this GAL that you're working with came up with a 50-50 plan?
That's correct. I thought my GAL was, although I didn't agree with everything that he put in his view of all that he had discovered with his interviews and his inspection of our home, I thought he was fair. He did recommend 50-50. The one thing I didn't agree with that he put in his report was that my 15-year-old son, he said, was old enough now in New Hampshire in the family court system. If your child's 15, if they deem that they're, you know, of sound mind and, you know, rational decision making, that they can choose which home to go to. And I just think it puts a child in a very awkward situation to choose between one parent and the other.
Right. Was there any accusations of child abuse?
None.
Or violence in the home?
None at all.
Prior to the divorce or during?
Never.
Nothing like that? So that's not an issue? There's no criminal problems here in the family or anything to
Not
that
at
effect? So the GAL goes to the marital master and says, I recommend 50-50. What happens then?
At that point, the marital master, Master Love, recommended mediation before going to a final hearing.
Even after the GAL recommended this?
That's correct.
Okay, so why did you need a GAL in the first place?
To inspect my home,
Okay.
and the allegations that my home was too small for the children,
Right.
and that I was smoking in the residence.
And that can't be done through mediation?
The inspection of the home, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
The mediator is strictly trying to get the two parties to agree upon a parenting plan.
Okay, so now we've got, the court sees the recommendation from the GAL, now you go to mediation. What happens there?
At mediation, we basically try to iron out something that's fair for both parties. We did that. I believe there were 2 visits that we did. We ironed that out, and instead of 60-40, that I had the kids 60% of the time, we agreed upon 50-50, worked out the holidays, worked out vacation schedule, and to the best of my knowledge, we were done.
All right, I do have a question on the 60-40. You had 60-40 at one point. The
That's
GAL says 50-50.
Correct.
Mediation seems to work out at 50-50.
Correct.
You're paying child support all this time?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I was not paying child support. I had agreed upon that time because I had children half of the time, and in majority of the time, I actually had them more. I had them 60% of the time. So we weren't paying child support at this point.
And because you had them most of the time?
That's correct. And because there was not a big difference, there was a slight difference in income, I agreed to pay all the unpaid medical expenses, any, you know, dental bills, co-pays, prescriptions, in lieu of any child support.
Now that the parenting plan changes from 60-40 to 50-50, is there a change in child support?
Not at this point, there is not.
Okay.
We live by that mediated parenting plan, waiting for the court to finalize everything.
Okay.
And we lived by that for a good 9 months and year. Our relationship with my ex-wife at that point was better than it had ever been, even when we were married. My current wife and I actually went to the hospital when she had her new baby and visited her brought gifts, visited her boyfriend and the new baby. I brought the kids there. I thought, this is great. This is something that's she's gonna move on with her life, and this is gonna be good. This is, you know, something that can kind of bring us together a little bit. Okay. And the next day, when my ex-wife actually got out of the hospital, my current wife, Kim, been on your show, and Kim went ahead, made dinner for the entire family, knowing that she was going to be laid up in bed, and brought dinner over for the entire family the next day, and things were going really, really well. Okay. And I had a vacation planned. Most of my family is in the Buffalo area. I had a planned vacation. We're going to be camping at an amusement park. Nice vacation. 2 days before we were leaving, I get a parenting plan in the mail.
From the marital master?
From the marital master.
Okay.
Parenting...
This is a big surprise?
This is a huge surprise. I was expecting a parenting plan, but not the one I received. I was expecting the mediated parenting plan and figured that we'd be going in for a child support hearing, that I may have to pay something now that my 15-year-old son has decided to spend most of his time with my wife. So I figured there'd be some child support. And I was waiting for the mediated parenting plan. And I get this a couple of days before I leave to take the kids on vacation. And I open it up, and it is my ex-wife's proposed parenting plan from the beginning of this, with giving me every other weekend and Friday for 4 hours.
That's a huge change.
It was devastating, absolutely devastating.
Blindsided.
Absolutely.
Had nothing to do with mediation.
Nothing to do with mediation.
And it went before the judge without your knowledge,
Correct.
or the marital master, I should say.
Correct, the marital master.
And it was signed off without any mediation being involved. It was pretty much one-sided.
Correct. I was very shocked at that point. I went ahead and called the family court. I had been in discussions with my ex-wife's attorney, and she was asking me, I'm talking days before I received this, she said, so, you know, what are you looking for? And I said, I'm just looking for 50-50, and, you know, I will, you know, something that we can work out on child support. I'll pay the uninsured medical expenses, or we'll come to some kind of arrangement and we'll be done. And she said, all right, great, I'll run this past your wife and we'll go ahead and see if we can, what she says, and get this done. So when I called the family court and I said, you know, I just got this parenting plan in the mail and there must be something wrong. I said, we've been to mediation. We have a signed mediated parenting plan.
And a recommendation from a GAL.
And a recommendation from the GAL. I said, I was just in discussions 2 days ago with my ex-wife's attorney how we can wrap this all up.
Was this a mistake?
That she wasn't sure when I talked to the clerk. She said, let me talk to Master Love. She's, you know, in court right now, and I'll get back to you this afternoon. So needless to say, I'm, you know, absolutely beside myself. So I decided to go down to the courthouse. I'm going to go right in and talk to him face to face and see what's going on. As I'm walking in the courthouse, I get a call from the clerk. The clerk says, I talked to Master Love. She made a mistake. She sent out the wrong parenting plan.
Oh, okay.
She meant to send out the mediated parenting plan. Come on in, I need you to sign it, and we'll contact your ex-wife, get her to sign it. We'll be all set and go from there. Went on vacation, and great vacation, got to see the relatives, grandmother, aunts, and uncles.
You come back.
Come back, I get a message from my ex-wife saying, you need to drop the kids off. I have custody of the children now. So I called her up. I said, no, there's a mistake. You need to call the courthouse, and there's been a mistake. The next phone call I got was from my ex-wife's attorney. My ex-wife's attorney says, I have a signed parenting plan from the family court with a judge's signature. This case is over.
All right, so this is where it all comes together.
Correct.
So we're basically at the beginning now. This is, oh my God, what just happened?
Yeah, my life had been absolutely destroyed at this point.
Did you appeal?
I did. I put in a motion to reconsider that parenting plan that was denied.
On what basis?
None.
How many times did you appeal?
I appealed that one time. At that point, once I had talked to my ex-wife's attorney, I had been through multiple attorneys, 3 different attorneys. I had contacted an attorney at this point and said, I need some help with this.
Over a 4-year period, you've been through how many attorneys?
3 attorneys.
Okay.
So I contacted, this is the 3rd attorney that I contacted, and I said, I need help. I said, this has gone awry, and I need somebody's help here.
Now, the court admitted to you, do you have that documented, that it made a mistake?
No.
It was a verbal from the clerk.
Correct.
Do you have it documented that the GAL recommended 50-50?
Absolutely.
How about mediation?
I have it signed by both myself and my wife, but it was never executed by the court.
It was signed.
Correct.
Was it presented to the court?
Absolutely.
And you have proof of that?
Absolutely.
And so what is the basis for them changing it? Where did it come from?
There was no basis. I believe it was a mistake that they refuse now to recognize at this point.
Now you have a 3rd attorney.
I do.
Take us there. What's going on here?
He went ahead and filed the motions for me, motions to reconsider. He went ahead and that was denied.
How much are these motions costing you?
Every single motion is at least $250.
Okay.
Larger motions are more expensive. And that's why I mentioned in the beginning of our interview that, you get into the family court and you usually don't have much. There's been a divorce, you're starting over, there's no money to begin with. And that's some of the reasons I had to go through 3 attorneys. I started with one, wrapped up the divorce. I started with a second one in the beginning. Couldn't go ahead and afford to keep that attorney. Once we got into mediation in the GAL, I figured we have some lapse time here. I had to pay for those also.
Are you paying child support now?
I am.
When did that start?
That started the day I received that new parenting plan.
And how long ago was that?
That was in June of, been a year now, almost a year, June of last year.
And you're current?
I am.
Yeah.
I actually do have some retroactive child support.
Was that a surprise to you, or was that, did the court rule for you to have to pay retroactive?
They did. They went ahead and we went to a child support hearing. They had me pay $423 a week in child support. I had filled out a financial affidavit.
Did she?
Yes, she did. She filled out a financial affidavit, and with my financial affidavit, there was no savings. We were making it week to week, and $423 a week.
What percentage is that of your income?
43%. My income varies.
Because you're in sales.
That's correct. It varies. And to give you last week's paycheck, once I get done, I'm responsible to pay for medical for the children, dental and eye. I cover all of that. Last week's paycheck, after they take the medical, dental, eye out, and the $423 every week that I pay my ex-wife, my take-home and taxes, my take-home was $426, and my ex-wife's was $423.
And you're covering the medical?
That's correct.
Wow. So you've appealed, you have a new lawyer, and you're paying a little over 40% of your income right now. The judge ruled that you need to, or the marital master ruled retroactive.
Correct.
Which, whatever, okay. So now tell me what's happening with the redress of grievance. You haven't filed a petition for redress of grievance.
I haven't. I actually appealed with my attorney. My attorney said, you know what, Mike, we're going to take this to the Supreme Court. It's going to be expensive, but we're going to go ahead. It's a ton of paperwork. It's going to be expensive.
How much is expensive?
His estimate was about $3,000 to $4,000 just to get it started and get in there. How much after that? No idea.
All right. And?
And he said, Mike, you've got a great case. I went ahead and under the same grounds that you have, I have filed a case similar, almost identical to yours, with the Supreme Court in the past as a GAL, and I've won.
Oh.
He said, this is great. I'm going to file it. I'm going to cite that case. I'm going to file it under the exact same grounds for you, and I think we're in really, really good shape. This is going to end up going back, and we're going to fix this.
Okay.
Months go by as it drags on and on. He calls me up and says, Mike, I'm in total shock. He said, I don't even know how to tell you this. He said, it was denied by the Supreme Court.
Interesting. Now, in other cases, I believe you have an automatic appeal, but because of your familial status, you are not, they can choose to hear the case or not.
That's correct.
Interesting. So where do you, you get blindsided, now you've appealed to the Supreme Court on the same basis where somebody else has won, where your attorney's
Same
won,
attorney.
He's won in the past.
Correct.
And they refuse to hear it.
They agreed to hear it when he was a GAL, but they did not agree and denied it as him representing a family member,
now,
as a parent.
Tell me what you told me, if you don't mind me. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure, no problem.
Just before we got on the air, you said something to the effect that your attorney mentioned that if you file a petition with the Redress of Grievance Committee, how would that help your standings with the courts?
Yeah, it's not good. Great attorney. He's been one of the few attorneys that didn't say, you know, before you sit down, I need a check for $1,500 or $3,000. My attorney has been terrific and worked piecemeal for me. He said, okay, this is what it's going to cost you for an appeal. This is what it's going to cost you for a motion. And I've been able to work with him. He actually went into court recently, and I still owe him thousands of dollars. And he still went into court because he knows how much I've been wronged by the family court, and, you know, feels bad for what we've had to gone through. And as I've been through this whole process, I've reached out to different family groups, fathers groups, met the Haas's, and I've shared some information. My wife, Kim, has been up to the State House trying to support some of the shared parenting bills. And he went ahead, and as I started sharing some of this stuff he's doing, he's like, Mike, you mentioned the redress of grievance committee. He said, as much as I want to help you and keep seeing you through this, if you file a petition for the redress of grievance, I'm going to have to withdraw from you.
On what grounds?
He said, Mike, I have a lot of other clients just like yourself. He said, if this gets to the family court that I am still representing you and you're up at the State House and you filed a petition with the redress of grievance committee, and they plan on bringing some of these marital masters, some of these judges up to the State House, he said, I've got other clients that I'm responsible for, and it's not going to look good on me when I go into family court to represent them.
So he has similar cases to what you're going through.
Absolutely.
And he will lose favorability, basically justice, before these judges, these marital masters, simply because you've exercised your right to appeal. You went to the Supreme Court, they wouldn't hear it.
Correct.
So now you go to the redress of grievance, which is your constitutional right, Article 32, which says that you have a right to petition the legislature.
That's correct.
That brings an attorney who is sworn to uphold the law in bad favor with the courts.
He has to withdraw as my legal counsel to protect the rest of his clients.
Because they get on the naughty list.
That's correct. And he went ahead and, you know, and you had asked prior to coming on the air why I hadn't filed a redress grievance already. And that was because we had talked about the back child support. I'm still waiting for a decision as we speak right now, and my ex-wife had asked, her attorney had asked that I be incarcerated for the back child support that I owe. Correction, for not the back child support, but for, you know, been current all the way along, but when they went ahead and slammed the gavel and said, you now have to pay $423 a week, and you owe it for the past 2 months or so, I'm immediately in the rears for that backdated child support. And waiting for that decision.
Are you in contempt?
Not at all. I'm sorry, I actually am. Right. I am in contempt, and that's what our final hearing was, and that's why I've held off on petitioning the redress of grievance committee, so that my attorney could go and help me out with that one last hearing that we had about a week ago.
Oh, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but would you consider, do you feel that the courts are trying to influence these attorneys to stop people from going before the redress of grievance?
Absolutely. In talking with my attorney, he absolutely. That not that he's, cares so much for himself or him, it's his other clients. And
he'd get blacklisted, and his other clients would end up getting punished.
His other clients would suffer because I went to the State House to file a petition for redress of grievance.
So do you have somebody that will sponsor you?
I've been talking with several of my local representatives. They have been talking to the area representatives, and it's a commitment. It's a commitment for that representative. They don't get paid very much, as you know.
Yeah.
And
maybe once in a while, free dinner. I don't know.
And it's a big time commitment they most have other jobs and have families, and to go ahead and get involved in my life and in my case, it's a big time commitment on those. So they've been talking, and I've been waiting until the last hearing that we had, which was just a week or so ago, and to come and talk to you. And at that point, we're going to go ahead within the next week or so, put everything together. I have lots of help with the Haas family and some of the other.
Judicial Child Abuse, that's a new organization that's been helping people like you.
Absolutely.
I believe that that's a lot of people are actually speaking to them now.
Right.
And you can go online and speak to them as well. A lot of people are going there first to get vetted to see if they can get their story straight.
Right.
Before they actually even go to the redress of grievance committee. That's not an endorsement or whatever, but it seems to be the case. Mike, I really wish you the best, and I want to thank you for coming on and talking on Speak Up and sharing your story.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate being here.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you're a person who is enjoying the show, interested in sponsoring this show and partaking in allowing it to continue, please contact me at speakupnh@gmail.com.
Every day, citizens around the country are faced with new dilemmas that affect them profoundly. Whether it's injustice, discrimination, falling through the cracks, scandals and cronyism, balances of power, ethics, religious freedoms, state versus citizens, and unfunded mandates, and the list goes on and on and on. Welcome to Speak Up. It's directed at those who have fallen through the cracks, and it gives them a voice. It's your turn to speak up, to stand up and fight back.